Hi everyone. We have Kanishq Chhabra with us, who recently scored a 333 on the GRE. You can see the date of exam and 117 Quant and 163 in verbal. I especially invited him to share exactly his preparation tips and how he went about the whole thing. So please welcome Kanishq. So really congratulations first of all for the score that you got, and I hope
Thank you.
finally you're able to turn it around. So just take us through how
Yes,
you prepared.
sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. So yeah, for me, I guess the GRE journey sort of began three and a half months ago, and I had started by giving a mock test, and I discovered that my area of weakness was verbal mostly. I was pretty much able to handle quant well, and in my first mock test that I gave, I
Mhm.
scored around 161, 162 in quant.
Okay.
But I was really struggling with verbal initially, and I realized quickly that the verbal aptitude that the test demands is sort of takes time to build.
Mhm.
You can't prepare for it overnight, or even for, say, I guess 15 to 20 days, at least for me.
Mhm.
So I really started from scratch for verbal. I started reading such texts
Right.
on literature, politics, and arts that are usually tested on the exams. If I recommend a few, I guess Aon essays were pretty good, were pretty helpful. Al Daily were helpful. Apart from the material that was already provided, of course, I try to inculcate a habit of reading, so to speak,
Right.
and applying the octave technique wherever I could, so
Mhm.
that and obviously the initially I was just basing my answers on instinct, and by applying my own logic. But that resulted in a very low accuracy. But when I started using and applying octave in the right manner, if I emphasize, because I initially I was struggling a lot with applying octave as well. It used to take
Mhm.
me a lot of time to apply it, and I was losing time in RCs, and that was causing a great amount of stress for me.
Right.
TC and SC I used to get through very quickly, but RC, I used to dread RC actually.
Mhm.
So Octave, after I became sort of adept at applying the technique, it is very instrumental in distilling down the important information that you require from a passage to answer a
Right.
particular question, and not focusing on the other parts. That is very
Right.
important, because if you try and understand focusing on the other parts of the passage and try to understand the passage in its entirety, you can't do that. I mean,
Right.
I definitely couldn't in the stipulated time that was provided to us.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that was for verbal.
What did you do for vocabulary
Slowly,
specifically?
yeah.
Was your vocabulary already very good, or did you do something for it? Like apart from the base courses,
Yeah,
also
so
you that you
vocabulary.
had or something. Yeah, please tell me.
Yeah, so for vocabulary, what I used to do was, I had a good knowledge of the working knowledge of good working knowledge of vocabulary. I used to read a lot when I was a kid,
Mhm.
so that somewhat helped, but up to a limit. So the exam usually is, very famous for testing obscure words that aren't used as much
Right.
in our language. Especially in India, we don't
Mhm.
use such words in English to express
Mhm.
ourselves, our opinions. So that was why each and every time I used to encounter a new word, I sort of used to write it down along with its meaning and a usage from the internet, so that I could keep track of all the new words that I was
Mhm.
coming through, and that helped me a lot. That helped my confidence a lot. Apart from obviously the studying and internalizing the conventional word lists that were provided to us,
Right.
the word list was a separate process, but this was simultaneous to that, and that is how I was sort of able to build some amount of confidence, at least. But again, words is something that you can never be done with, frankly, if
Right. Right.
I think.
Absolutely. Right. 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 Words of wisdom, Kanish. How about the math section? Although you were good at it, you're saying, but still, did you have to prepare for it to avoid silly mistakes, etc.? Because you were
Yes,
still at
definitely.
160, 161. So pushing it to 170 would have required some caution, some revision, something. Please tell us.
Yes, surely, surely. So, for quant section, I mean, see, the basic hurdle that I was inquiring was not sort of the understanding of the topics. I used to
Mhm.
understand the topics quite well and the concepts, but applying the concepts in sort of a time pressure situation was the one thing that I wasn't able to, sort of nail in the very first go. And things used to strike a lot late, and I till the time I realized that this was the particular way to approach a particular question, I used to run out of time
Mhm.
in quant, and this is very rare. I mean, I haven't heard anyone who runs out of time in quant.
Right.
uh, what I used to do for that was I used to practice so much. I mean, I I remember each and every a session that we had for quant.
Mhm.
I used to write down the exact question and my solution along with the solution provided by top,
Mhm.
and I used to do that for each and every question. I have separate notes for verbal, separate notes for quant, and so I did go through that long process of building my own notes and then preparing from it. So that gave me a confidence, because see, I used to get very nervous when I saw a new question on the screen, firstly because you can't go through all the questions at one go, the
Right.
questions that pop up
Absolutely.
on your screen.
Yeah.
So that sort of had my nerves.
Mhm.
I used to get nervous because I wasn't sure I'd be able to attempt the next question
Right.
and get it right. So this is what I focused on the exam day a lot. I mean,
Mhm.
in the process of giving mocks, I
Mhm.
inculcated sort of this habit, not to focus on the end result, but to focus on the question at hand and
Right.
get it right. Focusing on each and every question and not focusing at the end result is a great way to calm your nerves, I think. And
Right.
calming your nerves is a game changer, I believe,
Absolutely.
in this exam.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it. So tell us about the extra content that you had, the mocks and the real ETS mocks that you probably would have done. And do you believe that the course covered the basics for reading comprehension and for quantitative, whatever was needed?
Oh yes, definitely, definitely. I mean, more than covered. I believe the material that is outside of the course, I definitely feel that there is a dearth of good quality material
Mhm.
for GRE preparation, and the exam has changed a lot.
Right.
The and the material isn't up to date. I mean, the official material isn't even up to date.
Right.
And the in quant particularly, the verbosity of questions has increased. They do not give you information straight away. You have to
Right.
sift through a passage or something, or three or four lines to deduce what you need to solve the question.
Obviously,
So in
that is why
quant,
you
that
went
has
to
changed.
qualitatives,
And
and that's why the kind of practice you did must have helped a lot. Even the content that was provided towards
yes,
the end, I think, when you had very few days.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly, Sandeep. I mean, that was, I guess, instrumental in solidifying my prep. I couldn't find that type of preparation anywhere, because that was sort of mirroring what the exam asks, the exam tests.
Right.
So both for verbal and for quant, I truly benefited from that a lot. The material that was provided to us recently, that was updated to reflect the real difficulty of the test.
Okay, absolutely fabulous to know this. And what were your mock performances like, Kanishk?
Yeah, so see, I used to initially I didn't give mocks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There was just one mock that I gave, and after that I focused on building my concepts and gaining skills first, and then giving further mocks. But towards the end, I used to give, I mean, a mock every 3 to 4 days, just so
Mm-hmm.
I could get habituated with the process. I mean, mocks, I believe, is just a way to get yourself habituated with the process. It doesn't teach you a lot in terms of the skills that you require, but it teaches you a lot in terms of the psychological preparation you need to tackle the exam on the D-day, so to speak. So mock scores I usually used to get, quant, I used to get around 167 to 170
Mm-hmm.
towards the end.
Hmm.
And for verbal, I used to get 162 to 164, 165. So I believe I
So your
landed up in
score is
that
kind of
range.
similar to what you'd probably reached that level. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Eventually, I was able to land up in that range. Yes, yes.
Okay. And another couple of things. What was the exam structure like? Like which sections, how many quant, how many verbal, and how did you like which order did you follow exactly? I mean, obviously you can't choose an order, but what was the order
Yes.
here?
Yes, so my strategy was, I mean, I personally got three quant and two verbal sections.
Mhm.
So I one obviously quant was experimental. My first section was, I mean, initially I started with AWA,
Mm.
and I mean, AWA doesn't require a lot of prep per se.
Mm.
If you're good with writing
Right.
and you just go through a couple of passages, you can easily tackle that on
Right.
the D day. Just go through the
Mm.
structure and how to attempt the passage,
Right.
and that works, that fits well. First session section was quant section. I used to do one thing. I used to do data interpretation at the end, because data interpretation for me used to take some time to
Okay.
see exactly what the question is asking, and verifying it twice was very important for me, I feel, because I used to make mistakes in not verifying what the question is asking, and in the hurry of getting attempting the question, I used to attempt it wrong. Data interpretation particularly. So I used to go through all the questions for quant. That is what I did on the exam day. Go through all the questions on quant, solve each and every one of them, do data interpretation at the end. That was my
Right.
strategy
So the first
for the
section
quant
was quant.
section.
Then what was the next section for you?
Yes, alternatively, it kept on switching between quant and verbal. So
Okay.
verbal first section, I remember I got one long RC
Mm.
and one short and one critical reasoning.
Okay.
So that was it. And TCSC was manageable. TCSC wasn't an issue. And uh, in RC, I used
Mm.
to follow the order in verbal by doing text completion first,
Mm.
followed by sentence equivalence, and in I used to wind up with this in around 7 to 8 minutes, and
Right.
then focus exclusively on RC, so as to, because RC naturally requires some extra time. So
Right.
that was how I used to go about it, and that is what
Mhm.
I did on the test day. And after going through the entire verbal section, I used to have around a couple of minutes. I remember I had around 2 minutes for after I had completed my first verbal section. So I used to go back to questions. I used to mark questions
Mhm.
for text completion, which I wasn't that sure, because
Mhm.
nowadays the options are pretty close,
Right. It
and
completely agreed.
you have to choose. Yeah, you have to choose the option that fits the best. Might not always feel right, but fits the best. I mean, the best out of the lot.
Right.
So I used to really, think a lot about whether I had gotten them right. But apart from that, yeah, that this was the structure I followed. And I, luckily for me, I got in the second verbal section, I got only short passages. I got no long passage.
Mhm.
So for the entire verbal section, I got one long passage, and rest each passage was a short passage. So yeah.
Would you say there was
And
anything?
quant
That's good. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, please. Quant what? Yeah.
Quant, the last section, the experimental section, there was the experimental section of quant was pretty interesting. If I can say that, because questions obviously weren't new, but
Mm.
I guess from what I see, that what they're
Mhm.
trying to do is they're trying to make the process of gaining information from the question to reaching to the answer a bit longer.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
You told me it's the verbosity or the wordiness
yeah.
of the question that has gone up definitely substantially.
Yes, yes, yes. But no, nothing too spectacular in terms of difficulty, I feel.
So nothing really unusual you would say on your entire test in a way.
N- no, not at all. I mean, unusual, far from it. If you're very well prepared for the exam, you would definitely not encounter anything unusual.
I'm very, very glad to hear this. And
Hmm.
obviously, it's a lot of effort that you would have put in. But where do you feel that, no, let's say a fresh student joining our course, what is it that you would advise that the person must do so that the person really ends up getting a genuinely good score 330 plus 330, between 330 and 335?
Yeah, sure. So, see, I personally believe that consistency was very important for me. I mean, that is a thing that I follow in everything that I try to follow in everything that I do. And consistency, doing and staying with the process of working on yourself is very important throughout the course of GRE preparation. And if you miss even a single day, you can feel it in, I mean, the performance the very next day.
Right.
You can feel that you're not that comfortable anymore that you were, I mean, 1 or 2 days ago. So staying with it and doing it daily was a game changer, obviously. And but more than that, I guess, uh, focusing on getting your concepts right instead of doing tons and tons of practice questions
Right.
is very important. Because I know many people must be working on a time crunch while preparing for the exam. So concept clarity is of utmost. I cannot even stress how much. I mean, for quant especially, concept clarity is paramount. And practice obviously comes secondary, but practice is sort of a confidence builder, nothing much.
Right.
And a speed, and for speed, obviously. Verbal, I guess, following the techniques exactly as they are without thinking much about it is very important. Because if you start applying your own intuition, if you start applying your own, naturally you tend to do that. Your answers go wrong. I have seen that with myself. I've seen
Right.
that happen a lot.
Mm.
That my answers usually went in the wrong direction if I deviated from octave even one bit. I mean,
Right.
and the answers were so close, and it was the initial process would definitely be very painful. But it is a gradual process, and it is something that you have to work on. And I believe it's not the aptitude initially, and
Mm.
even towards the end, it's the attitude that you have towards the exam.
Right. Right.
With the right attitude, obviously anyone can ace the exam, because the materials provided are spectacular and
Right.
cover everything to the T.
So a couple of more things. I mean, you are from finance background now. So are you applying for a master's in finance sort of a course? Are you applying for a deferred MBA? What's the plan going forward?
Yes, sir. So I'll be applying. I'm mostly targeting schools in the US and the UK, and I'm looking at graduate programs in finance and business analytics. So these are the two areas that I'm interested in, and these are the two areas that I'll be applying to in the future. Deferred MBA sure is an option, but these are the areas that I'm more geared
Oh,
towards.
that's great to know. That's great to know. And another thing, your complete score on Quant, like the full score that you got, should help you quite a lot. So that really counts when you're applying to quantitative finance kind of courses, analytics, business analytics. This really comes in very handy. Because when the AdCom looks at
Yes.
Q170 in the final decider, this really makes a huge difference. Right.
Yeah, definitely. I believe so. I mean, these programs at the end of the day turn out to be pretty competitive because they are sort of pre-experienced, and GRE
Right.
factors in a lot in such types of programs. So yeah,
Right.
I believe I'm truly grateful to have achieved such a score in the exam. So yeah, this was, I used to remember this each and every time I used to sit and do quant. Sir always tells us not even 1 mark to be given in quant. 40 on
Yeah, yeah,
40,
that's
40 on
something
40,
that I've
40.
always maintained that not a single question should go wrong. Right from my first
Yeah.
recorded video, I would have seen that thing again and again and again.
Yeah. So that is what I had in the back of my mind. And, I guess that is what such small things always, motivate you to keep on pushing till you get that score that you need.
I'm very, very happy, Kanish, that this worked out for you and all the very best for your future. Do contact my colleague Autry in case you need any assistance. Not that you need to join any services or something, but just for further guidance as to how you should approach the rest of the process. All the very best for your admissions and do keep in touch. Very nice. Really, really happy and proud about your success. Right.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Bye.
Bye.